Pandemonium Reigns.
Yo, welcome to Pandemonium Reigns. Welcome, family and friends. I'm Dan. That's my boy Mike.
What up?
We're here to talk. Man, it's already week 3. Like, it's done. It's in the books.
A quarter of the season's done, man, and I'm not okay with that.
It's going
okay with that.
so fast. I'm not okay with this. Well, there is a lot of football to talk and not a lot of time to do it. So let's get jumping in, and as we do, thank you guys for listening in and making Pandemonium Reigns a part of your day on this beautiful Tuesday morning. Forgive us for not being with you yesterday. Life got in the way, but that's okay because we're here on a Tuesday. What's better than Tuesday? Tuesday with Pandemonium Reigns. Last Friday, Florida State played at Louisville and squeaked out a 35-31 win over the Cardinals. But it came at a cost.
Yes, it did.
I can't help but think of The Avengers, which I believe you have recently watched these movies now.
I have. I'm all the way caught up on Marvel, baby.
He's all the way caught up, people. I can't think of the line with Thanos. What did it cost? Costed everything. Jordan Travis. Not entirely sure yet, but it doesn't look good. Doesn't sound good. The tweets don't sound good. Nothing sounds good. But in steps this Rodemaker, right?
Tate Rodemaker. What
Tate.
a name.
Well, that's a backwoods. Of course, watch him be like from California.
Valdosta.
I know that you got to catch some of this game. Talk to me a little bit. What stuck out? We're essentially talking about in Florida State, a team kind of surprising the world a little bit right now. A team that looks to be on the up and up, but again, has an injury that cost them a lot. So what did you see out of those guys Friday night?
Yeah, funny game. Didn't watch all of this one, but did watch some of it. And started off hot. 14 apiece after one. That's a heck of a start to a game.
Yeah.
Got quiet in the middle of the game, second, third quarter, just 7 points apiece, and then had FSU coming back 14-10 in the fourth quarter, outscoring the Cardinals of Louisville. But man, I was hurt for Florida State when Travis went down, and seeing that the way that he went down did look bad.
Yeah.
Did look bad. I didn't see the injury with Verse, and that's a huge cost as well. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But yeah, just Travis's looking at his didn't look good, and Rodemaker, however you pronounce that name, didn't look good from the start either. But he really turned around later in that game, and they pull out a win, man. Looking at their top two backs, or their top two ball carriers, excuse me, you have Ward 10 for a $126, and then you got Benson with 10 for 70. Only came out with 189 as a team rushing, but dude, that's not bad. And then the two quarterbacks combined for 266, and just enough to get that win against Louisville.
Yeah, I'm glad you're throwing out some stats, because what immediately jumps off to me is Malik Cunningham. Are you kidding me? 21 for 34, 243 yards, a pick, and a touchdown, but also carried it for 17 times for 127 yards and 2 scores. The dude has a future on Sundays. Would you agree?
Really does. I would agree, man. Somebody's going to want him, and they're going to look at maybe his predecessor and say that we can get good football out of him in the league.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, real excited for Florida State and what they are doing currently in the college football landscape. Prayers and well wishes up for Jordan Travis. Hope he can make a return. Doesn't look good. Best wishes to Tate Rodemaker out of Valdosta, Georgia. Just throwing this in there real quick. He was 6 for 10, a $109. That's a good for a QB rating of 85.4. You know what? It was good enough to get the job done, and that's all that matters.
Absolutely.
So just kind of moving along in time here. Nobody really cares about the other Friday night game with Wyoming Air Force. So we're going to jump to noon on Saturday, and listen. It seems like it's Georgia at the top and just everybody else.
The way that it used to be with Alabama.
Yeah. This makes my stomach hurt.
Yeah. If it wasn't South Carolina, I would be very, very sick potentially about the outcome of this game. But as I've mentioned, it's a real shame that Shane Beamer's squad took this one on the chin like that. It's a real shame.
Yeah, yeah. Listen to this, y'all. Spencer Rattler, 13 for 25, 118, no scores, 2 picks. Good for a QBR of 26.2. What's crazy enough, and I know we're going to get there, is there is a worse QBR rating over the weekend. I can't wait to get there.
Can't either.
But so I'm watching this game, and it's the top of the third quarter, and there's about an eighth of the fans of South Carolina left in Williams-Brice. They are gone.
They were done with this.
And bro, all I could think of was this TikTok that I had seen earlier in the week from this Spurs Up podcast or something like that, and he was on the internet saying, "Don't let us hang around this game. We are crazy enough to win it. Do not let us hang around." And Georgia was like, "Okay, okay,
We don't care.
we won't let you hang around if it's that easy."
And we don't care.
I mean, exactly. So, listen, something else that I want to say, in addition to Georgia, you and I going into the season, we probably would have both agreed to put Bryce Young as the best quarterback in this conference.
Absolutely. I was perhaps too strong with my praise of Bryce.
Okay. Well, I mean, his Heisman season was pretty convincing. We probably both would have put Hendon second.
Homerism would have pulled that. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, if I'm wrong, tell me I'm wrong. We probably both would have put KJ at third.
Love that. Love that there. Yep.
And then we were probably putting Stetson fourth or fifth. Dude,
Yes.
There is an argument that he's the best quarterback in the conference right now.
He's playing like the best quarterback in the conference. And, I guess my gut, I don't expect a guy that, I'm not going to say struggles. That's too strong because he's played well. I mean, they won a national championship and he didn't play bad in that game.
Mm-hmm.
But someone that's been kind of as game manager as he's been, with what he's lacked passing at times, and also here's on this that they're drawing up plays and he's just able to. I mean, he's throwing kind of like Joe Milton to Walker Merrill and Ramel Keaton late in the Akron game,
Mm-hmm.
but he's delivering the ball as it needs to be. He's keeping plays alive better than I think ever with his legs.
Yeah.
He's playing superb right now.
Yeah, dude is balling out. Did you know that he led Georgia in rushing in this game?
Only because I just glanced at these stats a moment ago, and that's wild. But also, welcome to the modern game of football, Georgia, I guess.
Something else that jumps off to me is, so aside from Stetson Bennett, 3 carries, 36 yards, Edwards 4 for 33, Milton 10 for 32, Robinson 6 for 32, Beck for 2 for 25. I mean, they didn't have any dudes. They had Milton carry 10 times, and he only accounted for 32 yards, but they were just like, all right, you get some, here, we'll hand it to you, because ultimately they can't stop us. I mean, they ended up with more than 200 yards on the ground. As of right now, I don't know who can beat Georgia. They just look that good. And for South Carolina, lucky for them, they get to host Charlotte next week and then turn around and host SC State before they travel to Kentucky. So maybe they'll get some things figured out. But I mean, any other comments on Georgia other than just good gosh, dude, like they're ridiculously good.
Yeah, and don't quote me on this, but it feels like, excuse me, Brock Bowers has had a slightly slower start to this season, and he said, "I'm done with that." And
yeah,
I mean, he was borderline the best athlete on the field when he was on the field.
Yeah,
he was phenomenal.
Yeah,
just respect to him, and honestly, respect to Stetson Bennett because I didn't think he had play at this level in his ability. So yeah, nothing more for me. Oh, actually, I did think of one other thing.
Yep.
Something that stuck with me all off season is SEC Mike on Twitter, Michael Bratton, predicted Carolina, and he's owned up to this, but he predicted Carolina to win this game and be a real threat to Georgia. And I feel like a lot of us have just seen through this one all the way, man. Not a believer.
I mean, you need more than Spencer Rattler and a transfer tight end.
Absolutely.
It just means more. You just need more. they're just not good right now. Hopefully they will stay not good. You know who else is on the surprise? I'm gonna throw a name at you. Something I don't know, a little bit surprising to me. JJ McCarthy up in Michigan.
Yeah.
Dude listen, I get it. They played UConn. I get it. They won 59-0. I get it. But the dude, listen, he was 15 for 18. He only had 3 incompletions. He didn't throw any picks. He didn't throw any scores, but he was good for 214 yards. Listen, 3 incomplete passes. That's solid. And it seems to be his job. It seems like the competition is over.
Yeah, the competition is over, it sounds like. And it sounds like McNamara is going to be out for a few weeks, is what I feel like I've heard coming out of that game as well. And this should be exciting for Michigan because I think his ceiling is just obviously much higher than Cade McNamara's. Not that he's a bad quarterback or a bad player, but you need a guy that can, if you have a dual threat and he can throw the ball accurately and he can get it down the field, I think that's where you go. And JJ is very exciting.
Yeah. Hoping he can get some things rolling or I guess keep it rolling and upset at Ohio State down the road. Well, absolutely. Let's get back to the disappointing side of things. Nebraska.
Woof. Woof.
So I texted you and I said, hey, man, these guys look physical. They look excited to play. And I go back and I check the score and the bottom has fallen out. Nebraska loses 49-14 hosting Oklahoma. And it's to the point where I just kind of feel bad for these guys.
I definitely do. And I didn't watch much. I didn't watch any of this game. I saw some highlights. I've seen some stats, but goodness gracious, they're so lost. And I just hate how lost they are, truthfully.
Yeah. Oklahoma looks good. A very familiar name to Tennessee fans. Eric Gray was 11 carries, 113 yards. I don't know that he's had a 100-yard game since transferring to Oklahoma.
I don't believe he has. He's been a little underwhelming there. I'm not going to knock him, but you would have thought he would have done more with the weapons around him. And I think perhaps he's just now starting to break out there.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, if I know that we talked a little bit about this on a previous show, but if you're Nebraska at this point, what are you doing? I mean, I know it's an old question, but we're revisiting, but it feels warranted. What do you do? Who are you calling? What are you doing? I don't know. I feel like they're just in the stages of despair at this point.
I'm with you. Just brutal scenario. And I didn't think we could get much lower than scenarios we've seen Tennessee be in and some of the SEC programs that have been down. I mean, Arkansas a couple years ago before Pittman, I didn't think you could get much lower than that, but at least when you're in SEC country, you're going to attract big names anytime there's a vacancy. And you've got 4- and 5-star and good 3-star players within a stone's throw of your campus. So it really makes life difficult when you're out in the Midwest. You don't have the conference ties to the states of Texas and Oklahoma. I don't know what you do.
Well, Nebraska, we have no answers for you. That's some solid content because we got nothing. We got absolutely nothing.
I'm so stumped.
It seems bigger than a head coaching problem. It feels like administration. It feels like conference alignment. It's not a good day. It's not a good season to be a Nebraska fan. All right, let's shift back down to the Southeast. Listen, had I told you that Kentucky was going to be at the end of one scoreless against Youngstown State and only up 21-0 at the end of the half, you would have said,
same old Kentucky. I would have said Levis probably has 3 or 4 picks right now, and I know we only threw 2 for the game. But I'm just realizing more and more that if the NFL decision makers view a kid as a top 10 prospect because of his body and his build, sometimes it means he's very average in college football. And heck, these NFL decision makers may still take that chance on Levis. They may still take that chance on Anthony Richardson. But talk about 2 guys that are leaving a lot to be desired. Will Levis no different?
Yeah.
He's just a turnover machine.
He is.
And that feels like one of the greatest attributes that would transfer from college to pro. I mean, if you can't be clean with the ball against Youngstown State, and he threw picks all year last year against teams like Youngstown State.
Yeah.
What's he going to do with the speed of the NFL defenses? Yeah. Yeah.
You know what? Sometimes they just make that leap. They make the jump to the NFL, and that sometimes a switch just flips. Say like an Arian Foster, who had a pretty, well, I don't want to say an average career at Tennessee, but had a much better pro career, obviously, than he did a college career. And there's not really too many more names that I can think of. But you know, I know it's happened, but sometimes it just happens. But you know what? It sure'd be a shame if it didn't, bro. It'd just be a darn tootin' shame.
I mean, it would. And I know that the coaches in the pros are in the pros for a reason, and you don't have coaches like that in college all the time. But
right.
Man, I just talked about not seeing it with a guy, Will Levis.
I mean, he's got the ideal build, right? What did we say his build is? Let's see if I can't find this real quick. The dude's 6'3", 230. All right. And he can run, he can obviously sling it. He can't sling it like Joe Milton, but he can sling it. So, you know, it'd be interesting to follow his pro career and see what kind of unfolds for them. But you know what? Overall, an underwhelming performance against a Youngstown State. Don't know much about them other than they're not even a Group 5, and they're the Penguins. So that's cool. Hey, let's travel west. We're kind of ripping these off currently. We'll get to some exciting ones here shortly. I don't know if you saw the locker room celebration that happened in Los Angeles, California, after the Bruins upset South Alabama. I don't know if you saw this, but it's as if they won the Natty. Listen, I don't know if UCLA escapes South Alabama by 1 point, 32-31. There was nobody. And this feels like the most depressing episode of Pandemonium Reigns thus far. So if you're traveling with us on a Tuesday morning and you're driving to work and you're dreading work, you might want to turn this episode off because it feels very sad. Okay. UCLA, that was just pathetic. I mean, pathetic. If you haven't seen this, you've got to go Google image this. You got to go YouTube it. But there's nobody there. And you need to go then YouTube the celebration of UCLA. I'm telling you, it's like they just won the Cotton Pickett Super Bowl. But you know what? Dorian Thompson Bowling, or whatever his name is. I said Thompson Bowling. He was Dorian Thompson Robinson. Goodness, he was 20 for 30, 263, 3 scores, and it was just good enough to beat South Alabama and the Jaguars. Did you see any of this?
Only in-game highlights from other action that I was watching, you know, when somebody would miss a field goal and keep the other team alive, and just what a sad game indeed. Sadness Bowl, maybe of the season so far, if it's not Nebraska.
Yeah.
Because of that celebration that you're talking about, just woof. Yeah. Hey, they held the mighty Jaguars of South Alabama scoreless in the fourth. Does that count for anything?
No,
I don't think it does. No, definitely.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah, what an unfortunate event, man. I can't believe college football is so dead in Los Angeles. Honestly, see that tweet from Troy Aikman?
Oh yes, yeah. You're gonna have to. Can you recall it by chance?
He was referencing in 1988 when they were number 1 and they couldn't fill the Rose Bowl then, and saying that it's time for a 30,000 seat stadium on campus instead of the Rose Bowl. But he said the magic words: if you're not playing any better than they did on Saturday, you're not filling up 15,000.
Yeah, no doubt.
Goodness,
no doubt. And I hate to get a little bit out of order here because we're kind of working our way through time. But what an underwhelming performance for a team headed to the Big Ten, as opposed to a Washington who handled a Michigan State who's dang good inside of that conference. Do we want to go ahead and jump to that one?
Let's jump to that one. That was a crazy game. And again, I didn't watch a ton of it at this point, not to jump into our Orange Cast for the weekend, but I was still dealing with some Cedric Tillman related concerns and some nausea from that. So,
yeah,
my night was up in flux, but I did catch parts of this game, and it was really entertaining. I'm still surprised at how well Washington played and kind of ran away with that game at times.
Bro, Michael Penix Jr. was 24 for 40, 397 yards, and 4 touchdowns. Good for a 39-28 victory over the Spartans. I only caught the last little bit of this, but what I did, and when I did, I should say, the Spartan sideline looked defeated.
And if you're needing some entertainment, maybe a laugh to pick you up from this kind of, ho-hum Pandemonium Reigns podcast so far, go look at Mel Tucker's comments from this game.
Oh, yeah.
Or excuse me, from his post, from his press relations today. Not safe for this podcast. You won't catch me saying those words in front of mom and everyone.
Okay, so let me go ahead and find the censor button. Let's see if we can find this real quick. And I just need you to give us an idea of what Mel Tucker said, just for funsies.
Okay.
Penny Walker, cover your ears. Go ahead.
He said, "Yes, I took that loss personally. That was the question he was asked. I'm a horse bleep coach right now."
Yeah. That was my excellent bleep button skills right on time. Mel Tucker was some strong words, but anyway, so kind of coming back to this UCLA thing, they're the ones headed to the Big Ten, right? And that's just, I don't know. I don't have words for it.
Money ruining this sport. That's it, man. Just money ruining this sport.
You're exactly right, because I remember being shortly after high school. You know what? This might have been Lane Kiffin's year. Tennessee traveling to UCLA, and that being a pretty ruckus crowd.
That was a good environment. Yeah, actually, 08 they came to town in 09.
That's
08.
Right.
Yep. Good environment. Good environment. I don't know, man. I don't understand how college football fell so hard in 10 years. I don't get it. And I know USC in the tumble they took after Pete Carroll had a lot to do with it, I'm sure. But
yeah,
goodness, man, just woof.
Yeah. Well, UCLA avoids the Group 5 upset, and so does Virginia. This one caught both of our attention. That's not a correct way of saying that. That's not proper English, but whatever. You get the point. Virginia, okay, so they were down 16-13 very late into this game, where their quarterback, Brennan Armstrong, puts together one heck of a drive in order for Virginia to be able to kick a field goal towards the end of regulation and avoid the Old Dominion upset, unlike a Virginia Tech. What I bring this up because does this not feel like 2007?
It feels so much like 2007. I mean, yeah. Hey, if there's not a better indicator of 2007, look at what Kansas is doing. 3-0.
Oh,
taking down West Virginia. Taking down.
Point.
And we'll talk about this game.
Yeah.
Taking out West Virginia. Taking out Houston.
Yeah.
I mean, feels like 07, baby. Yeah, man. I don't know what to make of this Virginia team. They've had some decent years of late, and I know Bronco Mendenhall had some things to do with that, and I know they had was it Bryce Ramsey? Is that the quarterback's name? I don't know why that comes to mind. They had a really fun quarterback just a couple years ago. And they've taken a tumble. There's a reason that coaches leave and things like that. And Tony Ellitt's never been a head coach before. I know all those things, but boy, these Virginia teams need to learn their lesson about scheduling Old Dominion, man. I know that's a close proximity team.
Yeah.
Learn your lesson, my guys. Learn your lesson.
Yeah. I mean, Tony Elliott is not off to the greatest of starts. He's got a win over Richmond, got thumped by Illinois, and now escaped Old Dominion by the skin of his teeth. I do have to wonder if Tony Elliott is on the sideline on Saturday going, what have I done?
What have I done?
What have I done? Also, like a Marcus Freeman, which congratulations to Marcus Freeman. Hate it for Notre Dame, but congratulations to Marcus Freeman. Notre Dame gets their first win of the season, the first of Marcus Freeman's career in beating Cal, a not good Pac-12 team, by 7. They're wagga. They're bad. Goodness. They are bad.
You know, there's another Sadness Bowl candidate, not like the UCLA crowd or the Nebraska losses that they've taken, but I didn't have many eyes from the Walker household on this game, but I was told by some friends that there was a bogus offsides call on Cal that was on fourth down. It allowed Notre Dame to pick up a first down that led to a touchdown instead of a field goal, and it played a big difference in that game. I mean, these are the reasons that we hate Notre Dame. We've stated our like and our feelings towards Marcus Freeman.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully, what this will result in is him getting out of there and then working back towards a more likable job in the future, because that place sucks.
Yes. You and I have always thrived on what if conversations, what if this or what if that, or you're some hypotheticals. If you could uproot a Marcus Freeman and put him anywhere, where might you land him?
That's a fantastic question.
Oh, well, thank you. I'm full of them.
You are full of them. I know there's the Ohio State roots.
Yeah.
I know there's the time there at Notre Dame. But what I want in my heart is I want those old Big 12 teams and those old Pac-12 teams. Maybe somewhere like an Arizona State that's opening up as we speak.
Okay. Yeah.
Or somewhere there in the Big 12. And I know that again is not like the roots that he has in his experience so far, whether it's his playing days or his assistant coach days.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe one of those places, man, because it feels like you could bring some dudes to Arizona State out there. Did not work out for Herm Edwards, and I know there was probably a lot of questions back to day one for Herm Edwards being hired out there, but maybe a spot like that, man, because we're getting a little bit of, I'm going to use air quotes here for those listening and not watching, parity. But really what we're getting is a lot of upsets, because I think the middle to lower class of head coaches in the sport is in shambles.
Do you think it has anything to do with the standard that a Nick Saban has set, that a Kirby Smart has set?
I 100% do. And I think you've got a lot of schools that are saying, yeah, we're good. Forget that. We're going to be great.
Mm-hmm.
You're not doing it for us anymore. Here's the door. Here's your buyout. Go do it somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
And man, something else that I think we're learning lessons about galore is stability and what it means, man. And I know you can do things in the transfer portal that you couldn't do a decade ago or 5 years ago.
Yeah.
But a lot of times those short-term fixes don't work.
Yeah.
They don't.
You're right.
It's a reason why I gave Nebraska props for sticking with Scott Frost through some of those losses that they took. But, stability matters. And gosh, I don't know what's up with, I don't know why so many teams are so quick to pull the trigger on coaches.
I hear you. I think it's because they have a unrealistic standard on their program. I mean, we've done it.
We have done it.
We've done it. So, moving forward into the 2007 lens, Tulane goes into Manhattan, Kansas, and upsets Kansas State. Now, here's a stat that absolutely just pops off for me. Adrian Martinez, Nebraska transfer, matter of fact, 21 for 31. That's great in the completion attempt. Well, not great, but that's really good in the completion attempt world. But it's only good for 150 yards?
150 yards. How, man? That's 4.8. Your average. That's terrible.
That's
QBR below 45, 41.3.
Yeah.
No turnovers, it looks like, or no interceptions, I'll say. ESPN's not showing me if there was a fumble necessarily right here. Deuce Vaughn held to, 4.1 per carry, but 20 carries for 81 yards, no touchdowns. What was this other than 2007?
I'm telling you.
What was this?
There just has to be something in the air. That's the only thing that I can think of, because these upsets, these things that are happening. And listen, I think Kansas State is a solid football team right now. Contenders, and not champions in that conference, but contenders in that conference. So I have no idea. Which segues well, because something else I have no idea on is who Oregon is.
Man, and I know that we both, if I'm not mistaken, I know that I was all but saying BYU's going to walk in there and take this game.
Yep.
And Oregon said, absolutely no, you're not.
We both predicted it.
I was thinking we both did. I mean, talk about laying it to a good good, scrappy BYU team.
Yep.
We mentioned the like that we have for their squad, their players, and Kalani Sitake there at BYU.
Yep.
And Oregon just wasn't having it, man. I mean, yes, you got the good version of Bo Nix, and that's big. You're going to have the good version of Bo Nix against any competition. But talk about really, really, popping my eyes wide open here with this result.
Yeah, I can't figure out who these guys are. By week 3, we've got a pretty good idea on Georgia. We got a pretty good idea on a number of programs across the country. Oregon, I just have no idea. Not a dang clue. But continuing with the most depressing episode in Pandemonium Reigns, how do I say this? You want disappointment? You want sadness? You want brokenheartedness? Feel like I'm setting up for our sponsor, or like for our first commercial. You want these things? Then you need to travel to the plains of Auburn, Alabama right now, because they just got thumped 41-12. And one of our special guests on the show, Tyler, Auburn fan, could not have been more wrong. Penn State, the game felt like a snake that wraps itself around you and just kind of slowly chokes the life out of you until you're just sucking wind and you can't find anything. Listen, at the end of the half, it was 14-6. Penn State goes on to score 17 in the third. I mean, they're bad. Gosh, they're bad. They are so – TJ Finley, it might be time to pull the rug out from underneath that guy and say, listen, if we're going to lose because Robbie Ashford or whatever his name is.
Completely agree. Watching that game, I don't know what they want to do on offense. I really don't. I know you got Tank Bigsby, but you didn't even let him carry the ball 10 times, and maybe there was something there that I missed. I don't know. You got him 2 additional touches on receptions. I don't like TJ Finley. I'm rolling Robbie Ashford all day long. He's fun to watch, but I still don't know what they want to do offensively. And defensively, I know what it's like to watch a team play against a James Franklin coach team. It's death by 1,000 cuts. He's content if he can pick up 3 yards per play and have 4th and short, he'll go for it. If he can pick up just enough for a first down, he's fine with that.
Yep.
And this looks like a classic James Franklin coach team, and just you don't want to get beat by 30 at home to that team.
Absolutely. Keeping on the topic of Penn State real quick, they have a true freshman running back. If you don't follow recruiting, dude was number 1 running back in the country coming out. He was 10 for 124, last name Singleton, 2 scores and a long run of 54. He looks special.
He really does. And something about those Penn State running backs, man. I mean, talk about, gosh, Saquon getting back to his old form, it looks like this year.
Yeah.
And Nick Singleton looks like the next one in line, being a freshman, and he doesn't care. He plays like a veteran.
I am telling you what. Anyway, bad day to be a Cornhusker, bad day to be an Irish, bad day to be an Auburn Tiger. Bad season, I should say, actually. Yeah. Hey, how about little brother, though? Let's get some positivity up in this episode. Little brother, Vanderbilt, travels up north to wherever northern Illinois is and upsets the Huskies. Vanderbilt looks at Vegas and says, bump that. We're better than the 2.5-point spread. We'll beat them by 10. I need you to comment on this game in one word.
One word would be, what? Go up to the unfriendly confines of northern Illinois and the Huskies with a freshman quarterback? Where's Mike Wright? That's my what?
My goodness. Good for Vanderbilt. Good for those guys. And what was the most exciting ending of the entire weekend? Appalachian State and Troy. I meant to send you a video earlier. It's a video of some sorority girls at Troy recording themselves on the final play of this game, and they're all hooting and hollering and squealing. Squealing is probably a proper word. And until this receiver for Appy State catches this ball out of freaking nowhere, turns the corner and scores, that might be the funniest thing. Listen, Why? Listen, I know that Troy and Appalachian State are in the conference and they play regularly, but if you're a Power 5 school, why are you still scheduling these guys?
Buy out of this game now. Buy out of it now. Never play them. Never do it.
I mean, get out. How much longer? Serious conversation. How much longer before they are in a ACC or possibly who? Geography doesn't mean anything anymore. So a Big 12, something like that.
You know, that popped in my head just before you asked it, and I think the one thing that could hold them back is the size of that stadium. You know, you're not going to get many eyes in there. It doesn't have it doesn't hold a great number of people. Not that matters, as UCLA is proving.
Well, I was going to say, listen, Vanderbilt listeners are out there, so be careful. You might hurt their feelings.
I don't know if they are. I don't know if they exist. Sorry, guys. Okay. Yeah, dude, they belong. I think they belong because I had big question marks when they jumped from the Southern Conference and the FCS level to the Sun Belt. I was thinking, why would you do that? Yeah. You're running the gambit down there. You're winning championships. Why do that?
Yeah.
Because it usually doesn't bode well when teams make that move. They said, we don't care. We don't care.
Absolutely.
If they're legit and they're fun.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And they're solid and they prove to remain solid no matter who is head coach, no matter who's at quarterback, no matter whose name is on the back of the jersey. They just turn out to be really dang good. If you are a conference, oh my gosh, president or whatever it is, commissioner, forgive me, are you trying to get these guys inside of your conference? If you're a Big 12, if you're a Atlantic Coast, if you're a Pac-12, because again, geography doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah, dude, I'm vetting this thing, man. I'm looking into it. You know, are they interested? We can make something happen. I mean, seriously, I'm looking into it. If I'm the ACC and the Big 12, I don't think they're still several universities away from like an SEC, but they beat Texas A&M last week in College Station, so maybe not.
And almost upset a North Carolina, seriously, by the hair on their chinny chin chin. It was that close.
Yes, it was.
So. All right, let's move on in what's known as the revenge game. Listen, I've talked to some Bama fans. They weren't happy with this. They were not happy with this performance. And I have one question for you, okay? No jokes aside, serious question. How many picks did Bryce Young throw?
Did he throw two of them?
Two of them things.
Because you know, Tua threw two of them in the NFL yesterday, just like his old ways. So love to see it.
You won 63-7. You know what? You won 63-7.
Yeah.
I mean, what else do you want against a not bad Group 5 school? I mean,
yeah,
you won 63-7. That's all I know to say.
Yeah, I mean, revenge secured. I mean, good grief, let it go. Yeah, there's concerns. Like I get it. Like you need that deep threat. I mean, you're not the same without that deep threat. So like you got to get that figured out, and you do it like during games, which is not ideal. But I'm betting on them figuring it out, aren't you?
I mean, if history is any kind of indicator, they're going to figure it out. They're going to figure it out.
Seems like they will. Well,
because nobody cares about Alabama today, we're gonna keep things on the positive side and not talk about those guys. Kansas. I know we mentioned this already, but listen. So before we go into Kansas, if I saw this right, this is the first time in history, in college football history, that Kansas, Duke, North Carolina, Indiana, I want to say there's another basketball school, all 3-0. First time in history.
Unbelievable. I mean, this sport's been around forever. That's unbelievable, truly. And I'm enjoying it. Jalen Daniels.
Yeah.
I mean, slinging it around, 3 touchdowns, no picks. I mean, 123 rushing and 2 more touchdowns. I mean, that's incredible.
Yeah.
And, you know, all I can think about so far watching Houston and seeing their scores and their highlights is when we looked at 247's top 10 offensive projections, and they were like way up there, Houston, that is. And I get it. I get it. I get what they have returning and that they usually don't face much defense. I get all those factors. But again, Kansas didn't care. I mean, talk about the middle to lower class of coaches. I think one reason that's kind of broken is because guys like Lance Leupold don't necessarily get their chance until, I don't know how old he is, but he's not, he's not Dan Lanning's age. I mean, he's not Josh Heupel's age. He's an older coach.
Yeah.
And talk about a guy that can coach the football, man. I mean, has Kansas doing some things.
I'm telling you, listen, I hate to bust it, the Kansas fans out there. I hate to bust your chops, but this is his last year there.
That's probably right. That's probably right, because I mean, there's going to be so many openings.
So Arizona State's already open, and Nebraska's open. You have a blue blood in Nebraska, and you've got Arizona State, which has a lot of potential to be something. The conference realignment is going to kind of determine, the future of an Arizona State, but I don't care. Leipold, however you say his name, this is his last year in Kansas. I mean, he's already done too much. They're 3-0, and Kansas just doesn't do this. Listen, they're gonna have to bottom out from here in order for him to not be considered for another job. And what's really interesting is they host Duke on Saturday.
Yeah, a bit of an uproar about College Game Day not going there for that.
I'm telling you, I have no words. What is happening to our sport? The basketball powers overtaking the gridiron. Listen, hey, good for Kansas. It's a weird day in college football when a good Kansas State loses to a Tulane and Kansas goes and handles a Houston, who's not bad. But I don't know if you saw this either, bro. So there's a clip of a Houston player coming to the sideline and immediately shoving another player, and they get into a scrap. I have one question. Is Dana Holgorsen still there?
At Houston?
Yes.
He is.
Okay. So confirmed. They have culture problems.
Yeah, absolutely.
They have culture problems, and it's simply because Dana Holgorsen is still at the head. But listen, Houston seemed to kind of self-implode there. But hey, good for Kansas. I mean, if anybody can, I'm trying to think of something witty to say, and it's just not there. Hey, here's a game that nobody's talking about. You and I haven't even mentioned this. Liberty losing by 1 to Wake Forest. Why did this not catch our attention?
It must have been the timing thing is all I can think of. Because, the day gets away from you. Saturdays get away from you because so far this season, there's been good action all day long on Saturdays. So, I mean, I wish that I had recorded this game, or I wish I was kind of watching it as we're talking about it. Some names that everyone knows. I mean, Hartman at Wake Forest, a name that's going to resonate with Tennessee fans is Keaton Salter. I mean, what could have been with a guy like that, not Tennessee's fault. And he's a young kid, young kids do dumb things, but what a game, man. I wish I could watch this. I'm going to have to go back and find this game because 37-36, I mean, that's incredible.
Listen, fans, listen to this. Sam Hartman was the leading rusher for Wake Forest, 8 carries, 11 yards. The next best was some kid named Turner, 7 carries, 5 yards. The next best after that was Ellison, 7 carries, 4 yards. Cooley, 1 carry, 4 yards. That's so bad.
Hartman with a whopping 1.4 per carry. That's leading the team. Gosh, dude.
They were 26 for 20. Oh my gosh.
Clawfence, man.
They were 26 for 21 in rushing. But listen, hey, keeping the positive here on Pandemonium Reigns. Congratulations to Sam Hartman on not only a return, but a return and a win. Good for him. That is the most gaudy rushing numbers I think I have ever seen. And you won. You rushed for 21 yards and you won, compared to a Liberty who totaled 39 carries for 172 yards. I mean, was Liberty just like, we don't want the ball, punt. You know what? Here's the ball, whatever. I'm gonna have to go back and see the highlights on this because those statistics are just what.
Hey, another guy that can coach, man, Hugh Freeze. I'm not saying anything other than the dude can coach. And I'm also not going to judge Wake Forest for this score. A lot of times I would judge a team for this. It's Hugh Freeze and Liberty. They're kind of established. I ain't going to judge you for that yet.
Okay. All right. So you just triggered a thought. Hugh Freeze to Lincoln?
I would do it 100%, 100 times out of 100. If you can get Hugh Freeze, I'm doing it. Man, I think you go offense, and I think you can coach the heck out of football, period. I mean, I don't care necessarily what he was doing to get players to Ole Miss. I just don't.
Well, then you don't have any morals.
And I don't have morals, folks. I don't have morals. The morals for me are earned in the win-loss column. And if you're cheating and losing, we call you Jeremy Pruitt. But anyway, I don't care what you're doing to get the players on campus because it's been happening. We're not going to go there today.
Right.
So, yes, get Hugh Freeze, get him a quarterback like Keaton Salter or someone that he can just do whatever he wants with. And I think you're going to win games. I think you're going to right the ship out there with a guy like Hugh Freeze.
So, Tennessee fans, you and I have been through the coaching search, too many times. And I'm telling you right now, if Knoxville had just got rid of a Scott Frost and we're considering a Hugh Freeze, we're going to not consider him just because of his name. I'm telling you, college football fans, we're weird about this stuff. But anyway, hey, on a serious note, dude's a winner. Dude is a bit of a quarterback guru. You know what? Make the phone call.
Make the call. Vet him and make the call.
Could Hugh Freeze do better in a Starkville, Mississippi or a Baton Rouge, Louisiana than kind of what we saw on Saturday night? Because LSU's not good and Mississippi State didn't have a good showing either. I think you and I both predicted Mississippi State to win this game. We were wrong. We'll take that. Were. That's fine. But tell me what you saw out of this game on Saturday night.
Man, a few lasting impressions from this game is that LSU still got some dudes in that defensive front, or Mississippi State may have some offensive line concerns because also LSU has lost a key piece, Mason Smith, along that defensive line, and they were getting at Will Rogers.
Yeah,
and then when LSU had the ball, it's like they were trying to get in third to medium and third and long because they were going to this out route. Didn't matter. They were going to the slot. He was going out and running and out on third down, and they were picking it up. And later they cashed it in. They kind of faked it a little bit, but they ran a slot fade. Yeah. And that pretty much sealed the game. It was a nice play call. And I'm one of those guys that if the play's working, you're going to have to stop it before I stop calling it. I've heard a lot of good things about Zach Arnett there, the DC at Mississippi State, but I don't understand why they kept getting beat with the same thing down there. And I know that Mike Leach is a stubborn guy. He's not going to change. He's too old. He's done what he's done successfully for too long.
Right.
But defensively, and he was very animated. I mean, I agree. I think he is a good defensive coach, Arnett. But he's very animated, and I just don't know why they kept getting beat with the same thing time after time. And I know Daniels can cause you some problems with his legs and with his arm when his weapons are working for him. But kind of scratching my head at Mississippi State putting up 16 points. 16 points on a rebuilding LSU. What?
Yeah. And everybody's talked about how this is, Leach's third year in a program. That's supposedly the year for him. Well, that was a lackluster performance. It was a not fun game to watch. And as far as Arnett goes, the dude just looks straight cracked out.
He looks like he might have been born in the swamps of Louisiana, perhaps. He looks like he might have appeared on the television show Swamp People.
Yep.
Shoot him, Elizabeth. Yeah. I mean, he was in his element down there in Baton Rouge on Saturday night.
Telling you what. He the mold down there. You know what? Okay, so let's shift gears here. Keep it in the conference. Here's another school. After week 2, we thought we kind of had these guys figured out. And I didn't even say their name, and you're shaking your head because you know where I'm going with this.
100%.
Who's Arkansas? What? Listen, let me see if I can't find this very quickly. Team stats. No. Yep, scoring plays. At the end of the half, they were down 3 to Missouri State.
And they trailed 17-0 for the better, or I'm sorry, they trailed for the better part of that first half.
Yeah.
Made some special teams plays. I know they had a punt return touchdown that was pretty flashy.
Yeah.
And you won by 11. So where are you at without that punt return touchdown?
I'm telling you.
And you know, kind of the theme of this show is that the stats are not telling the story. And here's some numbers for you. 385 passing yards for KJ Jefferson. Yeah. 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. 22 carries, 167 yards for Raheem Sanders, and then 40 more and another touchdown for Jefferson. That does not equal 38 points. That does not equal an 11-point win over Missouri State. I don't care if it's Bobby Petrino. I don't care if it's Barry Bryant. I don't care who it is. That doesn't add up.
Right.
Credit to Bobby Petrino, man. Another guy that now I think I may have even texted you this mostly in jest. That dude can coach some ball. I don't think I'm going after him with a 10 to 20 foot pole right now if I'm one of these openings, you know, unless it's a lower level. Right. But dude can coach some ball. I just don't know what Arkansas is, though. How do you have that performance at home against Missouri State?
Words. Yes. I mean, this, I know we made this reference several times, but this is the most 2007 season, and we're in week 3. Looking at this score, there's just no reason that a roster talent like Arkansas, who's well coached, who has great quarterback play, who can run the ball, who defends well, has Missouri State hanging around. But you know what? They dug their heels in and found a way to win. So props to them. You know, maybe Bobby Petrino is calling up Nebraska and be like, hey, listen, I would love this job. I hear it's really flat up there, so it's great for my motorcycle. That's too far. I'm sorry.
Love it. I love it. I love it.
But you know what? I mean, who knows? I don't know. I don't know what's happening this season. I don't have words.
Me either.
So let's keep it in the conference after I make a quick comment about the Pittsburgh Panthers getting their revenge game against Western Michigan and starting a third-string quarterback in order to do it. Any comments on that game?
Hey, just glad they didn't lose to them like they did last year, coming off a win in Knoxville. And it's, again, I think I made this case on our Orange Cast last week, but maybe not. But if it took so long to play the third-string quarterback, and you go and get a win, I think that we talked about as well, this game was at Western Michigan. That's kind of tells me a lot. Playing the third string guy, you relied on your run game. Abanikanda having 133 yards and another touchdown. Yeah. So good. I hope Pitt's good. I want Pitt to be good. I think that means great things for Tennessee. So I'm glad they went and got it out that win with their third quarterback. Granted, 9 for 12, 179 yards, touchdown, no picks for Nate Yarnell. Again, took him a long time to play that guy because both quarterbacks were pretty banged up against Tennessee, and credit Tennessee for that, not for hurting them, but for getting to them, getting pressure. Just glad they won.
Yeah. Good for them. Rooting for those guys from here on out. Don't have a lot to say about Pitt. Don't care. We beat you. We're done with you. Go win your conference. Speaking, I know that I said I was going to stay in the ACC, but let's actually stay in the ACC for a second, and let's talk Clemson, because please tell me that you saw Clemson fans storming the field. You didn't see this. Clemson fans are rushing onto the field, y'all. Listen, listeners, buckle up, make sure your seatbelts on, because Clemson fans took the field after they upset Alabama. Wrong. No. After they destroyed a Florida State. No. Wrong. After they had their way with the best of the conference. No. After they beat La Tech. L.A. Tech. Clemson fans take the field. Comment? I mean, no, you're Clemson.
I had a pretty strong reaction in our weekend preview when we're talking about the mighty Vanderbilt Commodores traveling to Northern Illinois.
Yeah.
And I think this just took the cake. I haven't seen the footage. I'm a little bummed with Clemson. Just to tell you the truth. I want you guys to be good, man.
Yeah,
I want parity. I need you to be good, man. I need you to give these teams that we don't like in our conference fits. And you've done that in recruiting. I need you to continue doing it on the field, and you're losing me.
Absolutely.
You've lost me if you're rushing the field over a La Tech win. You won by 28. Why are you rushing the field? Like, it's not like you Arkansas and Missouri State did this thing. Like, what are you doing?
Well, they kind of did, because at the end of the half, it was 13-6.
That's true.
They went on a 21-point run in the third quarter, and both teams ended up scoring 14 in the fourth. But listen, this isn't, again, they didn't play Florida State. They didn't play Bama. They didn't play Georgia. They hosted La Tech. Listen, as soon as we hop off recording here, I'll try to find that clip and show you where the fans are. You're Clemson, man. You've got to be better than that.
You are better than that. Come on, guys.
Anyway, if you needed a laugh today, and if there's any Clemson fans out there, I know there's one of you told me you've listened before, and if you are, then I don't have any words for you, because that's just bad. So
that is bad.
Moving on, let's keep it in the conference and in the SEC. With Miami traveling to Texas A&M. I wanted this to be good. But you know what? The point differential in this game didn't match the feeling. It never really felt to me like Miami was in it.
Agreed.
And it's kind of not a crap showing by Cristobal and the Hurricanes, but you know what? You're catching – if you're going to beat A&M, like, that was the time to do it. They're
time to do it. Absolutely not a better time to do it.
I mean, they're coming off a bad loss to App State. They had, even with Max Johnson, they had bad quarterback play. He was 10 for 20, 140 yards, and a score. That's not good. You held A-Chain to underneath 100. So the stat, on that side of things kind of looks good for you. So, but you just didn't play good ball. You looked undisciplined. If I remember right, you had a couple drop passes. Very disappointing performance by Miami, and you know what? It's not even a great performance by Texas A&M either. I think A&M has another 2 to 3 losses if they keep playing this way.
It feels that way. I could also just see them being the team that they've been and winning 8 games, because that's kind of what they've done. And they have the talent to do it. I don't want to say that's what's frustrating about it, because I don't necessarily like them and I don't like Jimbo Fisher.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of talent. I don't care if it's young talent or whatever. It feels like it could go one of two ways, where they either fold up or they just kind of do what they've been doing. I'll say this: it feels like their ceiling is 8 or 9 wins, but it'll be a tough path to do it. But then again, when you've got Mississippi State dropping a game at LSU and you've got Arkansas letting Missouri State push them, maybe the SEC West isn't as good as even close to as good as we thought it was.
Yeah. I mean, who knows? Miami is going to get a chance to bounce back next week. Well, I say that, but you know what? This feels like 2007. They're going to host MTSU next week. So I would say, fans, keep your eye on that. Keep your eye close to Texas A&M, because who knows what in the world they're going to do. I mean,
true that.
The way this season is going, they will. If 2007 is really repeating itself, they will be our national champion, and they'll have 2 losses, and they'll be the 4th seed in the playoff, and they'll beat somebody to win a title, just because that's the way that this season is currently unfolding. We've made a lot of 2007 references. If you're a football fan out there and you just started watching recently, 2007 is probably one of the more wild seasons ever in this game, when a 2-loss LSU wins a national title, who we played in Atlanta, by the way. Thank you for that painful reminder. You have a comment?
Well, just to describe 2007, one of LSU's 2 losses was Kentucky, and they weren't Mark Stoops Kentucky. They were not good Kentucky, and they beat LSU that year. Crazy game. Go watch it. Do yourself a favor.
Yeah,
but feels like that's what we're in the midst of.
Absolutely. Hey, let's wind down the show. We will talk South Florida and Florida. And then, Mike, I'm going to need your strong performer of the week. All right. So let's talk Florida. And listen, I'm going to speak through the lens of a Tennessee fan here. They're bad, okay? They're not they're not good. They're not what we expected them to be. Anthony Richardson has not lived up to his expectation, but I want to be really careful with my words here because I know how this goes. And if history is any kind of indicator, again, he will put on a Heisman campaign on Saturday when you and I are in Neyland Stadium. But you were able to keep a closer eye on this game more than I was. Tell me, I just wasn't able to take my eyes off the Tennessee game yet. So tell me what you saw out of this game, out of Anthony Richardson. Period.
Yeah, what I saw in this game really surprised me because South Florida, they've had good years within the last decade to 15, and they've had some really, really bad years. We've talked about this. They added Gary Bohannon from Baylor, and he played his stat line won't reflect it. 12 for 28 passing, not great. 2 interceptions, not good. But what really killed them was honestly completing simple snaps of the football. They had a late snap that trickled underneath Bohannon's legs and went back and set up a longer field goal than it should have been. That would have sent this game potentially to overtime. And then I didn't even notice this real time because I was kind of nervous for him. On the snap, to the attempt to tie the game late, the snap, the holder catches the ball flat.
Yeah.
The ball is not upright. Right. Kicker tries to kick it. Actually, a pretty valiant effort for the mess that it was. But man, they ran for almost 300 yards, 6.2 per carry on average against this Florida team. And something that we may have not talked about so far is Ventrell Miller missing some time there, the linebacker for Florida. And I think Dan Mullen's recruiting and lack thereof is really showing because they had no business being in a 60-minute ball game that they arguably should have lost with South Florida.
Yeah. I will say if Anthony Richardson is that dude, okay, if he is the second coming of Cam Newton, if he is, Jesus 5.0, whatever, I mean, jokes aside, the expectations on him coming in the season were just unfair and stupid. That would have been the game that he took over, and he didn't.
Because he made plays against this USF team last year. He made a pretty ludicrous throw on the sideline, and in almost every game he was in last year, he made some plays with his feet. And he only had 24 yards rushing this game. They do have good running backs, and they are very sound at running the way that they run the ball. It seems like they do it out of about 4 to 5 different plays, but they're really strong with it. They get those guards pulled over from one side or the other, whichever way they're going, and they do a really good job. Montrell Johnson, I've talked about Louisiana should hate Napier for taking the all-conference offensive guard, Torrance and Montrell Johnson from Louisiana, but he's a really patient, really sound runner, and he has the capability to hurt probably any team on the schedule if the block's set up the way that they have at times for this team.
Yeah. Coming out of this game for Florida, as a Tennessee fan, I know we're going to talk about this later on an Orange Cast, but I have to like it. I'm trying to see this through not a historical lens. I have to like it because Florida just didn't look good. They did find a way to win it, but if that hold is right, the ball probably goes through the uprights, and so there's now staring at overtime. I don't know. Florida coming out of that Utah win, I went, crap. They're good because they beat a good Utah team. And in the past 2 weeks, it's been, what? And again, Richardson more tackles than touchdown passes. So don't have a lot to say about Florida other than, dang it.
Yeah, that interception he threw over the middle. And not that his interceptions this year have been like, hey, I understand what he was seeing there. Good play by the defense. That interception he threw over the middle, that was horrendous. I mean, it's like he glanced at it and then he just tried to flick his wrist and wheels the ball across the middle there, and I think I could have made the interception there, which is saying a lot. That was terrible. I don't know. I don't know if regression's a fair word because he didn't play a ton last year, and he turned the ball over when he did play. Yeah. But they've got 100,000 assistant coaches on that Florida staff. Not sure if you're aware. Yep. Listeners, if you're not aware, look into it. It's kind of hilarious. How is somebody not coaching him up to be better than he's been so far? I don't quite get.
I don't know. Going back to the pick that you just mentioned there for a second, a lot of guys throw that ball, and that ball looks the way it does because they threw it off of their back foot. They didn't shift their weight. They didn't turn their hips. Therefore, the ball has no velocity. But anyway, for one, the guy wasn't open.
No.
Two, I don't think he had either foot on the ground. Agreed. I'm pretty sure he was airborne. And so I'm going, hey, dude, give me that on Saturday. Give me that.
Give me that dude.
So,
give me that dude.
Very, very underwhelming performance by Florida, which I think we mainly have Tennessee and Georgia listeners. And so that means everybody's here for it.
Agreed. And hey, you told me you wanted to talk about Florida's mentality coming off a win here. So I want to hear about that.
Okay. Yes. So I think the best case scenario for us was basically what happened. What I'm getting at is that game could have ended in two ways. One, the way that it did, in kind of a relieving, oh my God, that's over, we made it out alive, thank the Lord, or a devastating, heartbreaking, let's say that USF kicks that field goal, they go into overtime, Florida takes first possession, they're held to a field goal, Bohannon runs it in and wins that way. I like their mentality coming out of this win more than I do that scenario loss. For one, I don't see a program like this, just kind of losing back-to-back games like that, losing to a South Florida and then turn around and losing to a Tennessee. So give me a Florida, okay, who is now looking at this going, we can play bad and win. Give me a Florida that is going, you know what, that was not our best performance, but we found a way to do it. All right, let's go to Knoxville, as opposed to a loss after South Florida going, crap, we've got stuff to fix. We got to change the mentality. Does that kind of make sense? Like there's a whole mentality shift, I think, if they lose that game. And I don't want them off of a loss. I'd rather have them off of this win, just because kind of the way that they did it, going, hey, we can play bad and not play up, as well as we can and still turn out wins. And look at Tennessee and go, hey, we beat those guys for how many years now?
That's what we do.
Yeah, it's what we do. And so give me that. Give me that. And you know what? There's no scientific evidence to that. But I will say, I'm going to use an example from Friday night. I'm on the sideline for a high school football game, and we had traveled to an away team who's pretty good. They've been pretty good over the course of my time there, and there's not a lick of energy in the room, bro. I mean, not on their side of the stadium, not on our side of the stadium. So I go into the locker room and I stand on the bench and I'm like, listen, boys, there ain't no energy in this stadium. Why don't you bring it? Why don't you be the one to throw the first punch? Why don't you be? But I hope none of these guys are listening, but it just didn't happen. Nobody wanted to throw a punch. And so I'm kind of hoping that's Florida's mentality. I hope those two things, I hope those dots connect with that story. I'm just hoping that Florida's going, it's Tennessee, we're Florida. We win. It's what we do. We do good wins. We have bad wins. It's who we are. Give me that. Because I like Heupel's approach in that situation. And I think he's going to be on Saturday. Listen, boys, it's time to lick your chops. Get after that cue. It's time to sling it. It's time. I don't know. This is not the Orange Cast, so I kind of want to leave that there. Yeah. But hey, we need to shift gears for a second as we close down shop on this episode. It's time for the Pandemonium Reigns Strong Performer of the Week.
I said, are you strong? They said, I'm strong if you strong. And I said, we strong, man.
Mike, you got a strong performance, a team, a play. What do you have for me?
There's a team that we talked about that pulls at my heartstrings.
Oh,
and
okay.
Thus they're getting my strong performance of the week. It goes to two guys specifically, but I think I could make a case for however many dudes are on this team. And the two dudes that get my strong performance of the week are Christian Horn and Chase Bryce. Sorry if I stole your thunder on that.
You did. Stole my thunder.
I could see you wanting to go that direction with this. But man, there's not a bad vibe in the room if you watch that clip of that Hail Mary where Horn trails the play, catches it, takes it around the pile. Just there's not a bad vibe in North Carolina right now with that. So that's my strong performance.
You know, it's hard to not go that route because of just the gravity, you know, of that one play. Well, since you're forcing me to shift here, I did have a plan B. I don't love it, but I'm going to give my strong performance of the week to the entire Penn State football team. Listen, Jordan-Hare is a hostile stadium, and you went in and you shut them up. Auburn helped you. Auburn's football team helped you. They were not very good, but props to a Penn State for traveling quite a long distance, going into a hostile environment that is Auburn and saying, you don't want none of this. And I don't know if you saw this either, doing their little Penn State chant right there in Jordan-Hare. Almost as bad, probably not as bad. Hang on, let me think about these words. I just remember being in Charlotte in 2018. You remember this?
Yep.
When Tennessee and West Virginia played and hearing Country Roads. It was loud. It was very loud.
Never been a big fan of Will Greer, so thank you for that.
Yeah. Hey, good choice on the strong performer of the week. Any last comments on week 3? If you had to sum up week 3 in a statement or in a word, how'd you do it?
Yeah, not to beat a dead horse, but 07, baby. That's what this week was.
Yeah.
So fun. Just we're going to be a third of the way through the season once week 4 is completed. So, folks, whether you're listening to this podcast, whether you're thinking, oh my gosh, can we not play a team like Akron or Missouri State or whatever? Enjoy every second of it.
Absolutely.
Eat it up, man, because it's going to be over before you know it.
Yeah, the weekend was filled with womp womps and what?
Absolutely.
Thank you, Appy State. Well, hey, that's going to be the end of this episode. Stick around because if you scroll up just a little bit on your podcast platforms such as Spotify and Apple Podcasts, you're going to see a special Orange Cast coming at you. And if you're not a Tennessee fan, listen anyway. Do us a favor. You want to help us? Hit the little blue buttons, hit the little subscribe buttons, hit the listen buttons, hit the play buttons, share with your friends. We love you, and we know that you love us, so just do us a favor, man, or woman, whoever you are. Don't want to misgender you. I'm too far. Oh, gosh. But anyway, thank you so much for your support. Thanks for listening. Week 3 was reminiscent of 2007. It held a lot. Again, this episode was a bit of a wagga. But sometimes that wagga is really fun. So says Happy State. Anyways, that's going to be all for Pandemonium Reigns. Thank you so much for letting us tickle those ears. Until next time, we'll see you guys.
Love you guys.